Hey, buddy. How are ya?
Good. Just, already been to the dentist this morning with a 2-year-old, which is always awesome. But yeah, ready to rock and roll, bouncing back and forth between quite a few places today. But hey, that's life.
Man, you're busy today.
I am slammed today. Thursdays tend to be easily my busiest day. But that's all right. It's my life in general is not really that busy compared to other people's lives, and so I anytime I have to kind of go into town, I generally try to get everything done on the same day. So today is just one of those things where I probably didn't do the best job lining things up because I've got like just enough gap to not really do anything, but enough of a gap to where I'll try to do something. Like dentist appointment at 7 a.m. Then we have the podcast. I got a haircut at 12, another appointment at 2, and then dinner with the family at 5:30. So it's just like a little bit of time, but not enough time. And so, but hey, what are you going to do? Everything else is golden. And like I said, I didn't have to wake up this morning and put on a suit and tie and leave the house with a briefcase to go work for the man. So I got no complaints.
Must be nice.
Hey, it is nice as you're over there probably in your white tank top and boxers hanging out at your office desk.
Man, I'm wearing swim shorts.
Okay.
My favorite USA swim shorts.
All right.
It's
USA
like the go-to, just sitting there on the floor when I get up.
Yeah, I get a lot of hate mail from my athletes for always wearing the same shirt all the time, but that's all right. Hey, listen, I'm a creature of habit. I have a few shirts that I like. They're all t-shirts. I've got a pair of sweatpants. I like what I like, and hey, if you don't have to dress up, I'm just not a guy that likes to dress up.
You're a simple man.
I am a simple man. It's funny because like when I go to pick up Hayden at daycare, if I show up in jeans, they know I'm going out to eat.
That's ridiculous.
They did like, oh, you're awfully dressed up. So today,
jeans.
Yeah. So if I'm in like jeans and even like a t-shirt, they're like, whoa, what are you doing tonight? Opera? Because I'm either like coming from working out, or I could just wear shorts or sweatpants and a sweatshirt, and like if it's the winter time. But so and today it'll be like they're probably thinking Allie and I are going to renew our vows because I'm getting a haircut at noon, and I'm going out to eat tonight with our family to not to a super nice restaurant, but to a restaurant to where I at least have to look halfway decent. But so they'll think I'm like going all in.
You wear like a t-shirt with no print on it or anything, like it's just a.
Heck yeah, man!
Like no,
no nothing to t-shirt.
Man, you clean up well, Mr. Bruce.
They do. That's what they say. Like, whoa. Where are you going? But yeah, and even sometimes because I wear my hat pretty much all the time, but occasionally if I'm feeling it, I'll because when I get my hair cut, the lady who does my hair, Amanda, she's like, "Do you even want me to put gel in your hair?" I'm like, "Listen, honestly, I mean, if you want the truth, the only time I get gel in my hair is once a month, and that's when you cut my hair." So I kind of, but occasionally if I'm feeling a little bit on the wild side, I'm like, yeah, go ahead and throw a little gel in there, and I'll just leave it, and then I'll go pick up Hayden, and he like doesn't even recognize me. He's like, who's this stranger? Stranger danger. Who's this weird white dude picking me up? But hey, that's the life that I get to live, and I listen. I definitely wouldn't trade it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty cash, man.
It is pretty cash, and I'm all about cash and keeping things as simple as possible. And hey, simple is good, especially in this day and age where we like to make things as overly complicated and worrisome and really just voluntarily, for the most part, cloud our minds with more and more and more craziness and anxiety and worries and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I do. I try to keep my life as simple as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Not always perfect at it, but I mean, I've had points in my life, as you know, where stress was like a daily thing, and now I'm just like, hey, listen, if I can keep things stress to the minimum, I'm gonna ride that train.
Oh man, yeah, simplicity is huge. I'm always trying to simplify the house, and it's never seems to be working. I think it can have a direct impact on my race. The simpler things are around my environment. And speaking of stress, I almost have my watch sync to my phone app almost figured out.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. Let's put down the farm.
That's like me showing up in jeans. It's like, whoa,
yeah.
Who are you?
Now, I actually have it synced to my phone. It doesn't always work like I like it to, but now the question is, how do I get it into Training Peaks? That would be like you might have to shut it down if that happened.
Yeah, if I know if I go into Training Peaks and it comes up as like user error and I like get some like matrix looking data, I'm like, yeah, Mike tried to sync his Sunto and everything's gonna be lost. Like Y2K for TP.
I mean, come on, man. Sometimes it syncs, sometimes it doesn't, and I'm just sitting here going. But I'm kind of into it a little bit, like seeing the graphs and stuff. It's kind of got me hooked. Normally, I just look at my workout after it happens on the watch, and I just let it go into the ether. But now it's sort of sticking around a little bit, and I'm kind of getting a little kick out of it.
Well, listen, you're coming across as kind of a changed man. You're using data, you're trying to sync it, and you're starting to use emojis in your text messages. And I feel like we're like borderline midlife crisis area. And I'm gonna show up to the crib for some work or for a ride, and you're gonna have like either a convertible or one of those huge vans. And so there's really no in between. So I'm kind of questioning things.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I don't know. I'm just trying to think about this race a little bit and not think about it at the same time.
Well, that's impossible. I think to not think about it.
We're doing Chattanooga 70.3.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And in case you didn't know, this is actually you didn't download the wrong podcast. This is in fact the Crushing Iron Triathlon podcast. But that was our usual 10 or 15 minute window where people seem to enjoy our chit chat like they're sitting in the room with two buddies. Well, is constantly one of the reviews we get, and I like that. I like that it feels comfortable and it feels homey and it feels easy. And I think that with a sport like this, we like to keep it that way. And I'm sure a lot of people wish we would dive deeper every time into Training Peaks data and the best bike workouts to finish your Ironman in 2 hours, those kind of things. But that's just not our podcast. No, and we appreciate you listening.
I think we should just start calling it the Triathlon Lifestyle segment.
Ooh.
Because, I mean, that works. It was sort of related, the stuff we talk about. It's just like, hey.
Then we could get a sponsor.
Then you could get a sponsor.
The Triathlon Lifestyle segment sponsored to you by Hemp Mattresses.
Hemp mattress. What kind of gel do you use? Maybe that could be the sponsor.
No, that could be a sponsor. Once in a month plug. Speaking of mattresses, what the hell is up with these avocado mattresses?
I don't know.
Have you seen the ad for those?
No, but I'm curious.
I think I saw it on Facebook.
Ketogenic?
It's like avocado mattress. I'm like, great. That's probably something that Starbucks is trying to sell you for like $13.20.
I don't understand what it is.
I don't either. I haven't clicked on it because it just makes me angry. But anyway, back to getting back into our triathlon non-sponsored segment. I just totally forgot what we were talking about.
Oh, you were talking
Chattanooga 70.3.
Yeah.
Not thinking. Yeah. And we had a couple of requests on this in the closed group. If you're not a part of it and you would like to be, you can get on Facebook, search Crushing Iron Group, and you can hop in the conversation. And obviously, if you haven't liked our Facebook page, we post like once a month. You can hop on there too. Just search Crushing Iron and like our page. But see, it's
We post more than once a month.
That's true.
I've rated that. I had a rating thing the other day. I rated it the #1 Facebook group on Facebook.
Did you?
Yeah.
You rated our own group the #1. That's like one of my biggest pet peeves on Twitter is when I see somebody retweet their own tweet.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like, dude, get the F out of here. Like, what are you doing retweeting your own tweet? But it seems like it's a week filled with panic. I know that I've got...
I said this once before, and if you haven't heard it, I'm going to say it again. That's what they do. It's important to say it again.
That's right, yeah. I'm going to reach... And that's, I guess kind of the... the genesis behind this topic is, listen, we've said it once, and apparently we need to say it again. Calm down.
Calm down.
Or as I posted in our Crushing Iron group yesterday, a little quote by old Mark Twain. I have had a great many troubles, but most of them never happened.
Yeah, I love that quote, man.
And that is like...
That guy was something else.
He wasn't he though?
Oh, he was a rebel too,
He was. I do know that. But I mean, and that's so much life in general. But when you and listen, I'm not gonna I just went through something like this as I talked about in the other podcast about my crazy fear of flying, which is totally irrational.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually Googling how to get over anxiety on a plane because
I'll tell you what I did after this.
I'm not kidding, man. I just hate it. It's just it's always been. I think I remember this has been 20 years ago. I actually was headed to the U.S. Open tennis with my dad to watch the tennis tournament. I love tennis, and we got to the airport parking lot, and I was so scared and my anxiety was so high, I refused to get on the plane.
Wow. Had you flown before that?
Yeah, but it had been a long time. And we didn't go. So when I say I don't like flying, I mean it's better than I'm better than I used to be, but it's just that thing.
That's a control issue, man.
It is. It is. No, you're exactly right. It is 1,000% a control issue. I had somebody tell me a long time ago that she was scared of flying too, and so what she did was she got her pilot's license.
Oh man, that's funny because that's when I was one of the last times I've flown. I was a little bit the same way. I mean, I think that's not very uncommon, but I was watching all these YouTube videos in cockpit videos of planes taking off and landing, and from the pilot's perspective, I was just trying to go, man, well, none of these guys are, and at the last camp we had, DJ, he was down here, and he's a pilot, so I was just peppering him, man, about the safety factors, and then down in Texas, Chris was talking, he was an air traffic controller, and I was he's like, yeah, computers fly those things, you don't even have to worry about it. They pretty much can land and take off. Without a person now. I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that makes you feel any better, but...
In a way, it kind of does, because I'm looking for self-driving cars as soon as possible. But anyway, so how are you going to handle that? Or how are we going to handle the fears we're dealing with?
But I think what you did, that would have scared the bejesus out of me. I don't want any part of watching the takeoff or landing. But what I did... one of the articles I did read, which I found was definitely the most helpful article I've ever read. It was, you just need to know the facts. And I went through this whole about how basically what it would take for an airline to actually crash and go down. And I was reading some statistics even if one engine goes out, it's very, very, very capable to land. Even if both engines go out, at the rate that it's traveling, it can still land safely with no engines.
In the Hudson River.
But still, okay, so the irrational side of me thinks, oh, well, I'm a pretty decent swimmer. If I'm flying over water, I'm totally good, man. I'm if we go down and I'm over the ocean, shit, I'm set. I'm gonna grab keep my Roka goggles and my wetsuit and my carry-on, and I'm you guys are screwed. I am good to go. But But for me, it was just like it was knowing the facts, and then what are the actual chances, and then what can I actually do about them? And right now, with like all these races that are going on, where there's races all over the world, and we've got weather, and we never believe it, and we always talk about weathermen until we're 2 weeks out from our race, and then we act like they were like appointed by God or the Pope himself to be 100% accurate 24/7 on all things weather. Mm-hmm. There's a 30% chance of rain 2.5 weeks from now. I'm like, okay, it's definitely going to change. See Texas 70.3 podcast where it was going to be super hot and I did heat training only to need thermal gear because it was so freaking cold that morning. But you've got storms, you've got heat, and especially this time of year when you're kind of flirting with spring and summer, it's pretty common. And as you know, living in Nashville and like a lot of other places, basically from here on out, there's going to be a chance of storms every single day, just because of the humidity and where we live. But it's asking yourself, okay, honestly, what really is the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
The absolute worst thing that can happen is you might not finish the race. If you go in all these scenarios, what if I get a flat tire? What if I get a bike wreck? What if I? And it's funny that we do this with these races, but with our normal life, we wake up and we honestly, most people, 99% of people, don't even think about that. What if today's going to go terrible? What if I get fired from my job? What about they don't stress about probably all the things they should stress about? Am I doing good at work? How am I? Am I being a good husband, or am I being a good wife, or a brother, whatever it is? Like all these things that you probably should care and stress and research about on like a daily basis. Are you fulfilling your obligations with this and that? Well, we don't. But when it comes to like, and I think it's also can be like a direct reflection of your relationship with where you kind of are with doing triathlons is like, yeah, okay, like if you don't, it's like, I think a lot of it is, are these things that I'm not going to be able to control, are they going to have an impact on how I can define myself with this race? Okay. And that's what scares people the most. If I get flat, and if people see this slow time, or see people not finish, that's going to define me, and they're going to think that I'm slow, or they're going to think that I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And the fact is that it's. Some races are going to be hot. Some races are going to be cold. Some races are going to be windy. Some races are going to have storms. Some races are going to cancel the swim. Like, we've all been a part of those. Or if you haven't, you're going to be a part of one. Where, like, okay, and even on, like, the good aspect. Like, last year, I had athletes that were doing Chattanooga 70.3 and really, really, really wanted to go sub 5.
Mm-hmm.
And they did, but they didn't.
Right.
To them, because the swim was cut short and they feel like they were robbed and of the opportunity, and I think that's another aspect of it is like, we don't like being robbed of the opportunity to do something that we really love. And I get that part, and I can totally relate to that part, but it's accepting that, listen, man, like on a day-to-day, second-to-second basis, we have very, very little to no control over anything anyway. It's how you react, or most oftentimes how you don't react to other people, other things, other environmental factors, and you stay the course and you work your plan and you finish giving your best, and then you can consider it a success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the amount of energy that goes into worrying about weather 2 or 3 days out is something that I always try to remember, because it's happened to me. It happens to everybody. And I mean, how many times have we all gone through that and just like, it just worked out? It just is what it is, man. It's like another day. Very rarely that it's sort of a signature moment in my life. We talk about it all the time, but the Rev 3 race I did with you, you drove over to me. We looked at the forecast on Thursday, and it said 100% chance of rain Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 100.
100%.
And that's when I guess you can kind of get but you can't worry. I mean, there's nothing you can do. You can either just drop out or just go do it. It's like it was 50, low 50s, and it did. The night before the race, it was just raining all day Saturday. It was cold. It was just nightmare. It was like my first big Olympic, and the year before my first Ironman. I was laying in bed that night, and I remember that night so well. I was scared because it was open water swim. The current was brutal. We had done a swim the day before. It was freezing cold water. It was 54 degrees or something. And I worried so much about I was worried about, like, danger factors, and I was really scared about it. And then it started sinking in as, like, it's like the pilot thing, it's like the flight thing. It's kind of irrational fear. Like, everybody does this stuff all the time. And 1,000 other people were going to join me the next day, and I was like, well, everybody's doing it. It's like, I don't know. It's like you start painting these fears that I always seem to go off the irrational end of it. It's like, look for the craziest things that can happen, and
yep.
It's like normally it doesn't, and if it does, then whatever. It's like. So I always try to remember that particular race, because I remember laying in bed going, and finally it just sunk into me. It's like, everybody, there's 1,000 other people doing it. Quit acting like you're the only one that can kind of control the elements in this thing tomorrow. Just wake up, go down there, and just smile and have fun. And it turned out to be, to this day, probably the most memorable race of my life. It was just one of those things where you go through it and you're like, man, I can't do this, and then you can. It was, in a way, it was my first Ironman like feeling, because I couldn't believe I actually finished that thing, and it gave you, it was a stepping stone of confidence, I guess, for me. But I don't know. Yeah, I was just so many times that weather thing is just like a big. Like zapper of energy, and there's just no reason for it, man. Just get up and do what you got to do.
Well, it's just funny. Like, we do this, and you look back, and you're like, all right, have I stressed about my training this much since I started, or have I been just kind of like, yeah? And you're like, oh, but no, it's racing, baby. I am gonna be. Everything matters more, so I'm going to just dive in and obsess about absolutely everything, and then you do it, and like it's bad things do in fact happen, yes, but more oftentimes than not, things are all good, and that's what's more than likely going to happen. But in the event that something bad does happen, then by preparing to panic for basically 2 weeks leading up to the race, you're just going to panic when it happens again. But your mindset on how you're going to deal with it, and listen, like, some may be serious and some not, but it's being able to stay calm and cool and collected in those moments that allows you to move on, and not, because listen, most times none of them are race enders. None of them are. Like, less than 1% are probably a race ender, So prepare to, if something bad, or not even bad, I shouldn't even use that word. If something unfortunate or, comes up, or there's like a small obstacle, then just say, you know what, if there is one, I'm going to deal with it, and I'm going to do it as best I can, as quick as I can, and get back on and keep doing my best, because nobody has a perfect life, and nobody rarely ever has a perfect race. Some things are going to happen. Some things are going to happen leading up to it that affect your training. Some things are going to happen. So when you have these expectations, that's why it's so important to really, really kind of dwindle them down to just the mere, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to execute my plan as best as possible. And I'm going to give it my all. And if you do all three of those things, then regardless of what may or may not happen, you're still going to be happy with how you did. Now, will the result look different from what you in your back of your mind hoped it would look like? Sure. But there's a level of acceptance that you have to have before you even get in the water that will allow you to know and do, a lot of, preparation in your mind of how things are going to be focused on. Like I had an athlete that did a bunch of athletes that did the big wildflower race this last weekend in California. Very prestigious race. It's like one of the I remember it was one of the very first races I ever read about when I was getting into the sport. And so the thing is that it was super, super hot on race day and very, very warm. And that course is absolutely brutal. It is not an easy course. It is very difficult. And when he and I were talking back about his plan to go for power, I gave him something probably, I think, 20 watts lower than what he had thought I was going to tell him. And he was like, "Well, why am I doing this? Like, I don't understand. All of my rides have been at this power, and I've been doing them on fatigue legs. Why can't I not? Why am I doing something less?" And what I told him was like, "Listen, it's going to be in the 90s, and it's a super hard course. A lot of times, and this goes with when bad things happen. So many times in races, it's not about who's the most fit and who's the most athletic and who's perfectly nailed training. A lot of the times it's about not out fitnessing somebody, it's about outsmarting them, or it's about being more patient." And that goes along with when obstacles happen. And so I said, I'm dropping it down because this is going to be a strategic race. It's also going to be hot, so you're going to need to save a little more energy for the run. But B, you're going to want to be able to ride a little bit lower power so you can take in more calories and fluids, because you're going to need them even more on the run. So we backed it down, and he ended up running his way onto the podium. And his first thing he said to me was, "You were 100% right with the conservative pacing. I wouldn't have been able to run my way on the podium if I had have gone 20 watts higher."
Wow, that's cool.
So it doesn't always work out that way, but it was him who likes to compete, who's often on the podium, and especially with you when you're telling a guy, "I want you to go about 20 watts lower." They're like, "Excuse me?"
Yeah.
It's like it's like to translate. It's like you've been training all year and you're thinking you're going to average 22 miles per hour, and your coach says, "We're going to average 20." You're like, "What? Pardon me?" Because all you see is the moment. All you see is the bike. All you see is what it says on your screen. But what you need to look out for, and you need to anticipate, and what you need to keep in mind is that big picture of how is it going to be when I cross the finish line. It's the game plan. It's the adjustment. It's a flat tire. It's how quickly do I change a flat tire? It's, does something go wrong in the swim? Like all these things, like there are these small little minute milliseconds, or even like at the max a couple of minutes within a 5, 6, 7 hour day that could be your 70.3, or even like a longer day when it comes to your Ironman, And so, but we reverse it to making these like grandiose, anxiety-driven panics of, well, this flat tire is going to make my whole day, but it's not. It can be if you know how to actually change a tire, and if you don't, shame on yourself. It could be, and it should be about 3 to 5 minutes max of a 70.3, and let's say it takes you 6 hours. That's 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's less. That's like less than 5% or something like that of your time. But to translate that into mentally preparing for a race where you've been wanting to totally nail this race, and I'll talk about Chattanooga because we're in the thick of it, and so many of our listeners know we're doing it. That you've been training all year, you've been thinking about a PR, you've been probably, whether you want to admit it or not, thinking about a number in your mind that that I want to do, that I can do, that'll make it a acceptable race, where I won't have to put, well, it wasn't the race that I hoped for, but yada 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 yada. You want to lead with, I did this time, so what I'm going to say is I had the best race ever, yada, yada, yada. Well, now you look at the forecast and it says for Chattanooga, it's going to say something like really, really hot. And it might even end up being to where it's not even a wetsuit legal swim, as hot as it's going to be here. So you're thinking, okay, fair course. Now I might not have a wetsuit, and it's going to be 85. You're going to have two different kinds of athletes. What can I do to continue to make sure that I still have this time, this PR I've set in my mind? And they're going to have athletes who are going to say, all right, my plan really doesn't change. My plan is still to execute. Now I got to just execute a different plan. I'm still going to go out. I'm still going to have fun. I'm still going to do my best. But now it's about how can I execute? An execution of a plan and how you adapt to the day's challenges. Because, listen, those are also challenges. Like, forget flat tires or leaky goggles or a mechanical, those are all things just like the weather is. So how are you going to adapt? What are you going to do different? How are you going to make it a positive experience to where your last 3 to 6 miles of the race are what you remember and what you're doing well, versus the millisecond that was the swim? Because that's like one of my least favorite things to read, is when somebody blames their race on a leaky goggle in the swim.
You don't like that?
Out of here. I hate it. I hate every bit of it. Oh, I got kicked in the face. Shut up. It lasted like a millisecond. Mm-hmm. Get on with your day. Get on with it. Because if you're looking for something bad to happen, something bad is going to happen. And it may not even be bad. You're just looking for it, so it's going to happen. And you're going to take it as bad. And then the rest of the day, you know what's going to happen? You're going to be dwelling on it.
Oh,
see,
yeah.
the day already started out with this. Or see, my day's already started out with this. I'm like, lock it up. Get it together. Focus on the stuff that you can control. Focus on the things that are good, and move on. Don't rip your wetsuit. Get a wetsuit stripper and you rip it off, and now you've got a calf cramp for the rest of the day, and that leads to your biggest excuse ever.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think about when I race, I try to think about, is like, okay, this concept of you don't have to show up at this race and be somebody you're not. Because mm-hmm. And that really relates back to what you always say about, it's like you've done this stuff in training, and then you know what you can do, you should know what you can realistically kind of do. Mm-hmm. And then you show up at a race, and then again it's sort of this tri-calc effect. It's like you think you can do, all of a sudden out of nowhere one day, out of the blue, you're just going to be somebody you're not, and race above and beyond, and it's like, if you can go into that race with, realizing who you are, have realistic expectations, and accept that, and just do it, that takes so much kind of that anxiety and that pressure off of your back. It's like 90% of life is just showing up. I always think about, I call it kind of the high school class reunion effect, because like, everybody gets so nervous thinking about that, experience. It's like, especially as you get old. I mean, if you've been around and going to these things, you get kind of nervous. You're like, oh, what is everybody going to think of me? How am I going to do this? And what am I going to wear? And like, how much gel am I going to put in my hair?
Am I going to wear jeans or no jeans?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying though? Everybody starts thinking about it. It's like, man, because you just sort of have this like thing you want to project, that you're somebody, or whatever. And I think that's similar to a race in a way. But what the interesting thing to me is when you show up at a class reunion, or you show up at a race, you realize everybody's in the same boat. We've all been kind of worrying about that, and everybody's just like going through the same shit. So you sort of identify with each other, and there's a certain calm that comes over. It's like sort of like maybe going to like AA or something. You get, everybody's like, you're nervous to get there, but then you realize everybody's just like looking for the same shit. They're struggling with the same stuff, and then everybody's cool. It's like, so there's a power in that collective group once you get to a race and you're kind of walking around the grounds and you know that everybody starts going, yeah, well, I'm a little nerd because I tweaked my my IT band is a little bit screwed. You always start hearing that, and that sort of takes. But that, you know what I mean? That sort of brings you back to this reality of like, look, I don't have to be some Superman. Everybody here is kind of dealing with the same shit, and then it works out. It just does, It's sort of like there's something about like getting to a place, It's like you hear all these, you imagine all this stuff in your head differently than the actual reality of being there is. And once you're there, that stuff washes away. So there's no sense in getting all, premature about what it's really going to seem like, because it is going to be what it is, just like tomorrow.
I think that's such a great point, and like to kind of like the flip side of what you said about what was it like? Don't show up to the race trying to be somebody you're not.
Yeah.
And to like on the flip side on that is like by doing that you're robbing yourself of the whole experience, because you know what the point of race day is? To figure out exactly where you really are.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's the point. Like that is, and I go over this with me. I think we touched on it even in the last podcast from before it. Like that's the point of race day, to figure out exactly where you are on that day, given the conditions, by doing the best that you can. Not, I'm a 450 Ironman athlete. I'm gonna go sub 5 today. Well, what if something bad? What if something unfortunate happens? What if you drop a nutrition bottle? What if it's super hot and you can't manage the heat well? Does that going to all of a sudden ruin you and your day? It shouldn't, but it does to so many people because, and like I get it, expectations, everybody has them, even though most of the time I think they're incredibly unhealthy. You have these like things in your mind, and I was talking about this with like a buddy of mine earlier this week. It was like, Chattanooga for me, like, is kind of cool because I have no clue how I'm gonna do. Texas, I was within about 8 to 10 minutes of where I thought I would be. Chattanooga, I have no idea, zero. I did Texas. I had 2 camps, a bike wreck, Disney World, and then now we're going to Chat. And I'm not super familiar with the course. I haven't had the most consistent training. It's been super busy. But what I'm most excited about is that I don't have any. Like, I haven't had time to think of, I wonder what I can do with this, and this, or I wonder what I'm capable of, or I should be this, this. All I'm thinking of is, man, I get to go out and just have fun and see where I'm at on May 20th. And it may be faster than I hope. It may be slower than I thought. But I know that if I execute my plan and I promise myself to have fun and smile and deal with things as they come, then I'm going to have a good day. But my good day isn't going to be, really defined at the end. If I can finish and I can, look over and I can, say, I can tell you, if I could tell Allie and Hayden exactly what I told you at the end of Texas, then I'll be in good shape. It was, I emptied the tank. I had nothing else to give. And then I just look back and I make adjustments and I move forward. But robbing yourself of, like that, like you said, like that high school reunion thing. It's like everybody's going to be so successful, and I'm like, you wake up and every single person's like gotten a divorce or hadn't had a job or has lost a loved one. It's like you said, we're all going through some shit, and judging ourselves is one of life's like most greatest pastimes. Is how harshly we judge ourselves, and then how we compare that to other people. When that's why some of your best videos, the reason I love them is that first, like I think specifically you have one for Louisville where it's just of the swim start.
Yeah.
You've got like hundreds of strangers, and you can see everybody has like a different reaction on their face. Some of them are smiling and laughing, some of them are being goofy, some of them are doing that like nervous chatter, some of them look like they've been punched in the gut. But it's like everybody's walking through the start line with some shit probably. 99 out of 100 probably have had something come up or something go wrong, but that's not what is going to determine their race day. Their race day is going to be determined on because and listen, I've been in this boat before because I've gone through some pretty tough crap in my life, and I've got plenty of athletes that have gone through some incredibly hard things, and sometimes I just have to shake them, digitally shake them, and be like, listen to me, think of all the things you've gone through in your life and how you've overcome them. And you're worried, and right now you're telling me you're worried about a 40% chance of storms.
I know, right? It just gets a little bit out of whack.
It's just think of it. You've overcome so much and done so well for yourself. Married, kids, been incredibly successful, and still dealing with and overcoming all these obstacles that the day throws at you, and you're still standing and you're still here. And you're sitting over here trying to tell me that you're freaking out about a 40% chance of rain. I said, well, my response was, you're a lot stronger than your email is to me, because we can make it through basically anything in life. We've all gone through, levels. The level of your suffering or whatever you want to call it is always going to be different for each people, but we all see it as suffering, so it really isn't that different. And I think sometimes we just forget about how strong and resilient we really are, because when we start to magnify these small little minute things, it's like we're telling ourselves that we're weak, or that we're incapable, or that we're unable to get over what on a regular day's basis we would just laugh off. It's dude, you think I'm gonna get stressed about that? Listen to what else I have going on in my life. And we just don't take that same attitude into racing, when that's why some of the greatest athletes, and whether they're vocal about it or not, have been so forthcoming about the things they've gone through in their life and how it's helped them, because they've used that proof of who they are and who they are deep down inside to say, I'm a resilient person. I can make it through some pretty tough shit. So when I get up and I get to go race, honestly, what is the race really at its core? What is a race really going to throw at me that I can't handle? Nothing. Zero. But we forget that.
Yeah. We do forget that, and it goes back to what I was saying about how many people, how many people have been through this before, and you just figure it out. It is like life in a way. I mean, the race is a microcosm of life, and you don't know what you're going to see until you get there, and you just have to have faith and, I guess, self-love and belief in yourself that you're going to just figure it out when you get there. It's like there's always going to be, dozens, if not hundreds, of little decisions that you make during that race, and or times when you got to suck it up and dig a little bit deeper, or you can kick back and whatever. And those are decisions you prepare for and hope that you're ready for, and then you just adjust. It does come down to this, what you're saying right at the beginning. I was this idea of who are you racing for and why are you doing it. It isn't about being able to hit a number and then just post it. If that's the driver, that's really going to be a, and even if you do get to say, hey, I went sub 5 at Chattanooga, who are you going to tell, and then what is that even going to mean? I don't know. It's really it really is about sort of figuring out what is your life attitude, and then taking that into the race. What is your attitude? Are you going to just change on that race day and become some superhuman and do something, and I know that feeling. like I've gone into every race with that feeling too. So it's like I empathize for people who think like that because, we go through this podcast and I think it is always a search and kind of an attempt to try and figure out, better ways to deal with shit and deal with racing and deal with life and everything like that. But if you go in there, like you always down and be like, come out of nowhere and just blow somebody away and be like, whoa, what the hell happened? And then it's like, I know how to live now because my training secrets will be someday revealed to the world. God, if I had a dime for every time I thought that, it's like my new sneaky avocado mix was gonna just like put me over the edge,
Yeah, turn you into a mattress.
Yeah.
But it's like we just forget. Like we put on our very, very tough and excited looking spandex tri-suits, and we all of a sudden become these like weak ass emotional, physical, representations of who we really are. And that's just like, it couldn't be any further from the truth. And because listen, if you made it to the start line, I can unequivocally guarantee that you've gone through some downs.
You think?
Yeah, some kind of a down, and it's like, but we just choose to stay down and to believe that something's going to happen that's going to keep us down. If you're racing this weekend, or you're racing tomorrow or anytime throughout the year, it's like, remember, like I could make it through basically anything because I have already. And if it was in my regular day-to-day life, would anything stop me? No. Would I overcome it? Yes. Would it be hard on me? Sure. But, so oftentimes in life, like if you ask people about the greatest things that ever happened to them or the things they remember most, it's rarely about like, winning something they didn't earn, or, getting picked for this random ass thing. It's this happened to me and I overcame it and I became this. And a lot of times most people in life would tell you some of the absolute best things that ever happened to them were some of the worst.
Oh.
I can tell you that for me. But it's not so much the bad thing that happened, it's how they chose to respond.
That's always it.
So when you get to a race, you can choose. Am I going to be the person that blames every other thing outside of the race or outside of me? Am I going to blame the no wetsuit? Am I going to blame getting kicked in the nose? Am I going to blame a leaky goggle? Am I going to blame, some volunteer for not getting me water at aid station 3? Am I going to be the guy who blames everything on everybody else except for how I chose to react to everything that's happening around me?
Mm-hmm.
So take ownership of it and decide that you're not. And if you're not prepared to take ownership of the day and what it's going to deal you, then go to the start line with that thought and, continue to blame everyone else. But if you're going to do that, you'll never be able to take credit of something that you really should be able to take credit for.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's always going to be some kind of nerves or anxiety or whatever right before a race that morning. I mean, that's natural and that's a good thing. It's just a matter of how you handle it. And a lot of times, like, my thing is like, once you walk off that dock and you actually jump into the water, just feel that. You know what I mean? Just really, like, once you hit that water, there's something about, and like, think of it in terms of like, wow, that is an amazing feeling to jump in a river. And then if you get that, just like right in that moment and feel the water and just feel how amazing it feels and not try to be done with the race yet, that can really change your mindset and just accept where you're at and just like enjoy the fact that you're out there swimming in an open body of water and like relax and not, because that's what happens is this anxiety thing is like you're already in your mind trying to be finished, and you can't accept the moment where you're at. And I think that, that's the biggest thing, right? It's always be in the moment. I mean, people, that's like, Zen Buddhism back to the 200,000 years ago or whatever. But there really is, that to me is the biggest thing is in racing, is just like get up that morning, just enjoy who you're hanging around with, get in that line and start talking to people and just be there with everyone else is doing the same thing. You're not going to win the race most likely unless Matt Hansen or Starkey's listening to this podcast. But if you guys are listening, don't be nervous. It's like just go do it.
Just go do it and have fun.
Yeah.
Have fun.
And it is. It's like I can easily sit here and say it, but I struggle with that as well. But that really is my answer usually. It's just like wake up that morning and it's like, wow, we get to race today, man.
Mm-hmm.
Conditions aside, weather's going to change probably during the race,
Yep.
And it's going to be beautiful.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be painful at the end of your run. You know that.
Yes. Yeah, it always is. So prepare.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. Go out, have fun, enjoy, learn something about yourself, take it, moving on, and then go train and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah, that's what you prepare for. That's why you keep doing this stuff over and over and over again. It's going to be the same. It's not because there's a race tag on it. That doesn't mean anything you're doing is any different than what you have been doing.
Yep.
Anyway, so we've got hopefully the gear will be in by Chattanooga.
Yeah.
I'll bring that down.
Shirts and such.
And we may have a little extra gear, so if you didn't get your order in, there may be opportunity to pick something up. Keep on that. We'll be getting in touch with you about when to pick this stuff up at Chattanooga. There'll be a couple windows of opportunity, but I suppose I could just email people that. You don't need to hear that, but go to our website.
You don't need to hear that.
CrushingIron.com. Check out our coaching. Check out the new coaching stuff. Oh, yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about any of that other new stuff, but do you?
No.
Not yet? Okay.
Not yet.
But yeah, check out the coaching, and there's a lot of cool different options on there if you want to get involved on a limited basis or get in full time and customize your training plans, or maybe keep it a little more limited. It's all there. All the info's there. CrushingIron.com.
It's all there. Enjoy. Peruse. Check it out. We have a lot there. Coaching, camps, training plans, videos, some analysis. It's all there.
My dad called me the other day. He said, I went to CrushingIron.com. He said, man, you guys got a lot going on. I said, yeah, Dad, sign up. Get on board.
That's right. Sign up, Pops.
Get on board with the Crushing Iron train. All right. You going training today?
Yeah, I got to finish up reviewing some training peaks, and then I'm going to start working on an email out to all our athletes that are doing Chattanooga 70.3, and then trying to get a short little ride in before my haircut and gel application at noon.
Ooh!
And then on to the next.
All right, man.
Talk to you later.
Okay, thanks for the podcast.
As always.
As always. What's our tagline? Just be yourself.
Yeah, just be yourself.
All right, man. I'll catch you later. Bye.